Didn't see you. Didn't see you. I was driving home from a big city near my little town late at night, after a day there with this dude on our first date, sometime in March of 2012. My date was asleep, and his seat was reclined really low. We got into town at around 1 a.m. in the morning, and I noticed this guy standing on the corner I was about to stop at a red light. He looked like he was probably on something. He was talking to himself and pacing around. I was a little nervous, but whatever. I'm a little too quick to judge people sometimes. So I stopped, and we accidentally made eye contact. At least I accidentally did. I could tell he was yelling at me because I kept hearing bitch and some other things. As I stopped at the longest red light ever, as the guy I was with was sleeping cozily in the passenger seat, really reclined. After about 10 seconds of the guy cussing me out, he hopped over to my car and swings the passenger door open, reaching for me. I started screaming bloody murder, and the guy I was on a date with woke up suddenly and started smacking the guy. I think it started as reflexes or something. The crazy guy is yelling, "Fuck, man! Didn't you see? Fuck, oh fuck, didn't you see this bitch?" etc. And my date pushed him out the door as I zoom off, running the red. He closed the door and yelled, "Who the fuck? What the fuck was..." I'm hyperventilating, and then I started half laughing, half crying, because my nerves were shot. We got some ice cream at 1 a.m. Then I took him home and went home myself. We laughed about it, but I don't like to think of what would have happened if he hadn't been there. That dude that was sleeping in my car on the first date married me 3 weeks ago. You bet your goddamn bottom dollar we told the story of our first date. He came into our tent. It was early March, and me, my boyfriend John, and 2 other friends decided to go camping on an island about 45 minutes away from the city. The weather wasn't great, but we were seniors in high school and wanted to get away from the weekend to smoke and drink, like most stupid seniors do. So we packed 2 tents, some firewood, and loaded into my truck. We arrived at the state park at about 4 p.m. and set up camp. My boyfriend and I took one tent while our friends took the other. We started smoking and drinking and just being dumb seniors. The park ranger told us that besides one other man by himself, we were the only ones there for the night because the weather wasn't great. We didn't see any other tents or cars, so we figured this other guy had left. I don't quite remember what happened before I fell asleep. Too much alcohol, I guess. But I remember waking up at about 1 a.m. to John getting dressed. I sleepily asked him where he was going, and he said, "The bathroom." There was a restroom facility 2 campsites down from us. A few minutes later, I hear him yelling in the distance. At this point, I was too tired, cold, and lazy to get up and check. Plus, I'm a small woman, and John is a huge guy who does MMA and wrestling. I would not have been able to help. When he comes back to the tent, he looks a little flustered and says, "Well, I found the other camper. He was a big guy staring at me as I went to the bathroom, but when I yelled at him and approached him, he walked away." At this point, I was a little freaked out, but it was 1 a.m. and I felt safe with my boyfriend. I went back to sleep, but was awoken at 3 a.m. to the sound of my truck door slamming. I sent my boyfriend out to check, and he said that the lights were on inside, but nothing had been taken. I figured I left the light on by accident, and I was just hearing things. I go back to sleep. I woke up again at 5 a.m. to the sounds of cop cars and sirens. The cops rip open our tent and demand that we come outside. All 4 of us are dazed and confused, wondering if someone reported underage drinking or something along those lines. Nope. The cops say they received a 911 call saying the campers at the nearby state park would be dead and they should send an ambulance. Obviously, we were not dead or even hurt, but they asked if we saw anything. My boyfriend, at this moment, described the man in the bathroom and the yelling that followed afterwards. Then, my friend spoke up and said, "Oh yeah, I heard the yelling. Shortly after that is when John came into our tent to sleep." John looked at her confused. I never went into your tent last night. I didn't want to wake you and freak you out," he said. My friend looked distraught and said, "Yeah, you did. You came in, laid down, and slept with us for like an hour. Then you said you had to go to the car and you left." John and I looked at each other and almost shit our pants. He was with me the whole time. It was this man that had been in their tent. The cops searched the campgrounds, but found no evidence of any other camper at all. The ranger said he came in on foot and paid his fee in cash. I don't know what this guy's deal was, but let's never meet again. Babe, I've been hearing some weird things at home. First time posting, so apologies if I make mistakes. This happened about 5 years ago, after my fiance and I had been living in our house for a little over a year. I'm 6 feet tall and about 225 pounds. I have always been naturally muscular and am told I have an intimidating demeanor. My fiance is 5'2", weighs maybe 130, tiny little thing. Our house is a bi-level home where you walk in the front door and there are 2 half staircases going out to the living room or down to the basement. The only access to our backyard is through the sliding glass door in the upstairs living room and down the stairs from our deck. During this time, I partied a lot, way more than I should have. I was between jobs and it was towards the end of the holidays, so my interest in finding a new job wasn't quite what it should have been. Many of these nights I was out partying, I would end up just crashing with friends, which meant my fiancé spent many nights alone with our 3 dogs. I had a serious problem with substance abuse, primarily alcohol, and I'm sad to say, I was letting it getting the better of me. Fast forward a couple months, and I had just found a new job that had random drug and alcohol tests. I had been sober all of 2 days and had begun repairing my relationship with my fiancée when she told me how glad she was that I was sleeping at home again. I thought nothing of it and kissed her on the head and told her I was too and that I loved her. Later that night, my fiancé and I were watching TV downstairs when I thought I heard something moving in our backyard. The dogs heard it too, but I dismissed it because they just perked up their ears, but didn't seem too alarmed. A moment later, I hear the noise again, and my fiancé very quickly mutes the TV and gives me a serious look. "Did you hear that?" she asked, looking very uncomfortable. I told her it's probably just a few of the neighborhood cats playing in our bushes, as there are quite a few outdoor cats living in the area, but she shook her head and began insisting that this was not the case. Before I could even ask her what made her so sure, I hear our sliding glass door upstairs fly open. All 3 of my Great Danes and myself are on our feet in an instant. The dogs let out the most ferocious sounding barks I've ever heard and tore ass up the stairs with me right behind them. As I'm rounding the first set of stairs and the dogs are reaching the top of the second set, I see the sliding glass door slam closed and the silhouette of a man running away. I get to the door and fling it open, and the dogs shove me out of the way to chase after this would-be intruder. I grab my flashlight and run out into the yard. I just made it down the deck stairs when I see the dogs freaking out at the back fence. I sprint over and jump the fence just in time to see the man reaching the opposite fence and trying to get over it. He was covered head to toe in black clothing, a thick black hoodie with the hood pulled tight to conceal his face, and jet black cargo pants. Without any regard for my personal safety, I charge the man and just barely miss getting a hold of him as he makes it over the fence. Once more, I follow him over and come around the front of my neighbor's house just in time to see him hop into an old beaten-up pickup and speed off. I watch for a moment as he tears out of the neighborhood and disappears into the night. I run back home as fast as I can to check on my fiancée and make sure that she's okay. When I walked into the house, she was sitting in the upstairs living room, surrounded by all 3 of our Great Danes, and clutching the biggest knife that we own. She was visibly shaken, but ultimately, she is a very strong woman and told me she was ready in case I got into trouble. After calling the cops, giving statements, and triple checking to make sure every door and window in the house was locked tight, we decided to watch another movie, as neither of us were tired after the adrenaline rush we had just been through. During the movie, I asked her what made her so sure that it wasn't just cats playing in the yard. What she told me was enough for me to decide it was time to change my whole life. She said that for about a month now, she had been hearing strange noises coming from all around the house late at night. She would hear footsteps outside, and occasionally what sounded like whispering. When I asked her why she never told anyone, she just shook her head and said that she didn't know. After hearing this, I came to the realization that whoever this man was, he knew that I was never home at night, and that my fiancé essentially was all alone most of the time. Fortunately for us, he somehow missed the fact that we have 3 Great Danes, and for whatever reason on this night, he decided not to check and make sure she was alone again. Since that day, I have been 100% sober from everything, 5 years total as of March 1st, and have not left my fiancé alone overnight since. Our relationship has never been stronger, and our 3 Great Danes are 3 of the best dogs anyone could ever ask for. In the end, this experience has changed my life completely, for the better. But creepy, wannabe, rapist, burglar, whatever the fuck you are, let's not meet, for your sake.